Welcome to Screenblend, episode 13. And today we take a deep dive and look into Netflix's new show, Space Force. We also look at the theatrical windows for films and some Mission Impossible news as well. Stay tuned.
And welcome everybody to episode 13 of the Screenblend podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Will Cutts, and on the other side of this delightful Zoom call with his fresh-sounding microphone, another bit of tech, you've got Mace. How are you?
Good. Another good day. Yeah, I got my new cloud lifter, so if my volume's even better than it was before on my already very expensive microphone, you're in for a treat.
You really need to work on the webcam, though, because I can't see your beautiful face at the moment as much now. So just get me that HD crisp Mason webcam.
Another $400?
No,
yeah, sure. Add that to the JobKeeper balance.
Yeah, JobKeeper. Oh, God, I got a little bit of a cough. Again, everyone, hope you're all well. And as always, you can check us out at Screen_Blend on all the forms of social media. Have a look at our website for any little up-to-date podcast stuff and some editorial things. I've just got a little bit of a cough, Mace. Probably should go get me the old COVID test now. Just going to have a little sip of the water. And you can follow me at Will B Cutts on the socials, and you, Mace, at Jack_Mason22.
Jack Mason 20. Oh, geez, I've even forgot my own handle.
I'm pretty sure it's
Mason,
Jack.
_Mason 22.
Yeah, or whatever it is. You can find it all below. Again, everyone, hopefully you checked out our last couple of episodes on the podcast. We obviously had a great time talking about Spider-Man PS4 with Connor a couple of days ago. So go back and have a listen to that if you haven't already. Good to look back at a game that's been out for a little bit of time now, but highly recommend in this ISO period. And obviously we spoke about Nintendo Switch party games also on episode 11. So we're sort of moving back into today's episode. Jack, is about Space Force.
Yes,
that's the main
something
topic
nice and current.
Yeah, first sort of thing, but obviously we're going to jump into the news, everyone, in a sec. But I was thinking before, we haven't really spoke about something too current besides, say, like something like a current release yet, I would have to say. Yeah. So everything's been other little topics or sort of news. So it's good to finally dive into something that is just come out now for something that I think we both have very differing opinions on / the sort of the way of comedy these days anyway. So, Mace, we'll get into the news. You've got a couple of things to start us off with, and then I've got a couple of interesting topics also. So you want to take us away?
Yeah, so as we said on the previous podcast with Connor, PlayStation had this huge event planned for June 4th, showing off all these new games, and I think everyone was quite excited, but that has now been cancelled due to the protests and all the issues currently going on in America, and I suppose the world. Yeah. So Sony released a statement about 2 days ago, and they said, "We have decided to postpone the PlayStation 5 event scheduled for June 4th. While we understand gamers worldwide are excited to see PS5 games, we do not feel that it is the right time for celebration. And for now, we want to stand back and allow more important voices to be heard." So they haven't actually told us when they're actually going to push this event to. Yeah. So my guess is that they might push it forward a month because, they still have to show these games, obviously, before the PlayStation event in November, before it gets released. So I'm thinking maybe July 4th around Independence Day for this event now, because I understand that this what's going on in the US right now might span at least a month, maybe not even that. So that's been delayed, which is a bit disappointing, but I guess things need to happen. And then Mission Impossible, just back to this news from a couple of weeks ago. The whole production crew now looks to commence filming in September this year and go through till May 2021. And at this rate, they do look to going back to Italy and Venice and commence and start filming there, regardless of what the situation with the coronavirus is. And then they also do plan to have a lot of it filmed in the UK studio as well, just to avoid any other incidences there. So that's all going ahead, hopefully as planned come then. But as there's a few production mixes up due to COVID. And just onto other movies starting as well. James Cameron is also back in New Zealand to commence filming of Avatar 2, 3, 4, or whichever one he's currently filming right now. He's probably filming scenes back to back in reverse. He's probably all over the place filming three at once.
Can I ask you another question, Jack? Who was the guy that was reading the news before? Because his voice changed and he sounded all rugged and...
I'm sorry, I can do that voice if you want.
Yeah. That was like that's all you've got from radio school. All that little that's all radio school was for that moment, and you nailed it as you were reading it. You were so focused on it. But
$1,500 well
yeah,
spent.
yeah, that's one JobKeeper payment.
Yeah, it
if you
is.
start thinking about it like that, but no, I just thought that was funny. I'll let you go because you nailed that, mate. You nailed it. No, first bit of news I had. Sorry, just to completely sidetrack here because
That's all right. It's my journo voice. So, yeah.
I thought I needed to. Yeah, again, Avatar, where we're filming that and what's going on with that, I got no idea. They're going to keep saying they're filming that, and I reckon it's still until I see a trailer, I don't believe it's happening. So the first bit of news I had was sort of come out a little bit under sort of Black Widow and things coming out soon is the 90-day theatrical window is probably a thing of the past. So taking this, there's a couple of different outlets are reporting this at the moment, just saying that you're not likely to see a movie be in cinemas, ends its run in cinemas, and then we have to wait 90 days to get it, whether that's on streaming, VOD, all et cetera, et cetera. With the way the landscape is now, it's going to be looking like studios will need to cash in a little bit quicker, I'd have to say. So where does this sit with you? Because again, I was thinking back before, we used to have 6 months, I reckon, nearly. Something would be in cinema, it would take forever to come out. More just a production time, I think, anyway, to produce the old VHSs or a DVD. Yeah. Now, like, how long would you want between something being in cinema and then on VOD? Because we've spoken about VOD a little bit and the old thing of we don't want to pay for anything when we could just get it on our Netflix subscription at some point. But if a movie came out, leave cinema, and then the week later it's available for download and you pay $10, $15 or whatever it is, would you be doing that, or what's your sort of your thoughts?
Well, you know me, I like a bit of a gap between the first time I see a movie and the second. But I think that impacts the cinema chains and everyone who does do direct-to-video services like Xbox or Apple, you know, or YouTube, who do release pretty much these films as soon as they come out on VOD. So I think it's an interesting one because movies will suffer, you know, like you won't be able to see Avengers a couple months down the line on the big screen or, you know, something like that. So I think from a long-term perspective for cinema goers and the cinema chains, they will be quite affected because, you know, not everyone goes and sees a movie in those first initial weeks or even months of a film's release. There's a lot of people who go maybe once they've heard some good reviews, you know, they're working, they might go 2 months, 3 months down the line.
Yeah.
So there's still potential for those cinema chains to earn some money. And if it's going to straight to VOD within, you know, even any less than 90 days, then they're just going to have to get it on a streaming service. And therefore that's going to benefit Xbox and YouTube and whatnot. So I can see both sides of the chain. And like you said, DVDs and all that did take a long time to produce, and VHS, that probably was an added factor back in the day while we had to wait so long to get it between the cinema and watching it on our own living room, in our own living room. But I think overall 90 days, I think is fine. I'm really hoping it won't impact the cinemas too much, but I think it's worth an experiment to see. It depends on how many movies are also being released at the end of this year, because at this stage, I think everything's 50% down in terms of the box office and studio budgets and all this. I think this year might have a bigger impact if they do decide to do that as soon as, you know, Tenet comes out in July, rather than have Tenet, you know, go for 4 or 5 months because there's not a whole lot else. But going into 2021, whatnot, it might be all right, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, because I'm thinking from an interesting perspective or point of view is if we are still social distancing, and this is more major markets like America and stuff, let's say normally you'd have 300 seats. You're probably only going to be able to have 100 seats in the cinema at this point. So maybe there is so I think the studios would be seeing VOD as that way to make up that extra 200 seats. Or I know we've spoken about it, and it's still not going to be enough to bring the money back that they need in. So I think it's a necessary evil that's going to have to come from this, and it was probably not far off happening anyway. We might have just accelerated this a couple of years earlier than expected. So for me, it's an interesting one, really.
Yeah, it's the inevitable, I feel, at the same time. And but yeah, just with like you said, movie theaters not having to have a 1.5 meter
Yeah.
distance or only allowed so many people.
Yeah.
It's even worse in America and UK and I guess around the world. So we've actually got it pretty good. So if large movies are coming into the cinemas from July onwards, then the cinema chains are certainly not going to get many people in, let alone it being out of the cinema in 90 days.
No.
So yeah, they're going to struggle.
So
For this.
even just having a look, I'm just scrolling a couple of little websites here anyway, and just saying that they British people. Now again, this is obviously very difficult to compare Australia to Britain and America, but our percentage of box office is obviously much minimal compared to an American amount. They're saying currently at the moment, 1 in 5 British people would be happy to go to a movie theater in July when they reopen, when they're preparing to reopen. So obviously here in Australia right now, they've reopened and some of your smaller chains are sort of fine. And in the end, the drive-ins come back. But here in Adelaide, where we record this, we only got one drive-in theatre and they also have to social distance cars. So every second car park, they're not in. But that's not enough money Australia's not a big enough region of box office to get enough money to open things up. So something like Britain and again America, not everyone wants to start returning. Pardon me, to cinemas. I think Tenet's obviously the idea that that's still going to come out, but I can just see it's like you said, the VOD might be the way to go now, at least in this little period. But I think you can't go back. This is the problem.
No, I don't think you can. And I mean, cinemas, over here in Australia, to combat having no films. I'm not sure if you've seen this. You pay $300, you get all your mates to a cinema, 20 people into a cinema, $300, and you can choose any movie you want to watch at
Oh,
Wallace.
really?
Yeah.
Where's
So
that?
you can.
Hoyts?
No, Wallace Cinemas.
Oh, no,
An email came up the other day, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good idea. Just to fill the gap for the market until something good comes on. But yeah, any other news for you, Cuts?
No, but that's it was so $300, and you can get 20 mates in.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good idea, and because I think they're selling their popcorn all that separately as well. Like a bit of a grocer, come and get your caramel popcorn and whatnot.
Why? Oh yeah, come and get your $8 fucking Maltesers.
Yeah, $8 Maltesers.
But then like I sort of feel for them in some, not feel for them at all. Oh, they're putting Space Jam back out at the drive-in.
Oh,
I'm just looking at Wallace thing now. It's so bad, but right now they're trying to re-push out Doolittle. Oh my god, like they must just imagine if this was like there was actually some good movies that just come out.
Yeah, that'd be.
But right
a
now,
whole lot of shit ones haven't they? Really,
this is why again we're so pushing off everyone who you don't care at all about what's on the Wallace Cinema Drive-In. But this is sort of it is getting about movies at the moment. So Doolittle, Fantasy Island, what the hell is that? Bad Boys for Life, Space Jam, but at least Back to the Future's on the Drive-In at the moment. So that's all right. I'd cop that.
I'd see the classics. Yeah.
And I did see Hoyts at the moment are starting to show all of Nolan's movies, obviously teeing up for Tenet. So there you can go in and have a look at some of his old movies, what I think is not a bad shout. But no, so I don't think there's that much more on the real news front at the moment. Obviously, everything, like you said before, has sort of been taken up with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. So it's sort of a quiet time on this entertainment front. And again, we'll sort of, unless you got anything else. Oh no, the other thing I had written down is apparently, Godzilla versus Kong, what you are massively looking forward to, Jack. Wink. Has just got a PG-13 rating in the States though, so it's probably M-ish here in Australia. And people are just asking where the trailer is for this again at this point. If they don't know when 100% is getting released, there will be no trailer, but it's at least been classified at the moment. So are you interested in this at all, or could not give a flying F?
Well, I know it was meant to be released around this time.
Yeah.
Before it got pushed back. So I think, we're aiming for a later 2020 release at this stage. But I think it's actually had a few production difficulties and a few pushbacks, because I'm pretty sure it was aiming for a March 2020 release date. I might be wrong in saying that.
Now it's November.
Oh, November now.
Now it's no. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've saw Kong and I saw Godzilla 1 and 2, King of Monsters. I'm not sure if I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm probably looking forward to it more so than the second Godzilla movie or the first Kong movie, because you see these two massive giants fighting each other. That's entertainment in itself. But looking at the other ones, there was all this hype for Godzilla 2 King of Monsters, and I just thought it was not a very good movie. It was just a bunch of CGI monsters, some guys fighting, and then they fly away, and lots of red dust, and I couldn't tell who was who. And hopefully this doesn't have this problem, because I find the same for Transformers, telling what's going on amongst all the chaos and the fighting. But if they do some well choreographed scenes between Kong and Godzilla, and you can tell what's going on in the action, and there's enough, human interaction amongst it all, and some characterization, and it's just not this big fight fest that, like something like Rampage, with The Rock, and we're just like, it might be all right, but I'm not going in with high expectation, expect to see, the best movie of 2020.
No.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. I was just looking at some other stuff with their production difficulty that they've had, and I just think it's one of those ones where I will happily go with a bit of popcorn, but I find it difficult to connect with characters like that sometimes, because we always then have to tie it into the human element of this sort of stuff that's going on. And sometimes I just can't be bothered with these human characters that they're really trying to make this story about, when just show me these big monsters just battling it out, and I don't need it to be the best movie ever. But in the end, there's gonna be this cool set piece, and then we're gonna cut away to some humans just running, or like we have to do this to save the world, or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, for God's sake, there's two massive monsters the size of like skyscrapers battling it out, and we're worrying about these two people if they can get like a chip into this thing to fucking do this, and you're just like, oh, for God's sake. Like,
but in King Kong, what I liked is, you had Samuel Jackson, you had Brie Larson, you had relatively better developed characters than what you saw in, Godzilla, the first two Godzillas. So if they can do something similar to that, because I didn't mind the actors they chose for that, and there was quite a bit of screen time for them to kind of develop before you kind of saw Kong. So if they can do something similar, it's not just these people trying to save the world and running away from the fights half the time, I might show a bit of interest. But
I think that the Kong one's not bad, I think, because your sort of majority of it's set to the island in a way. So it's like, from my remembering, like, because it's so set to that space. Whereas I think whenever you have Godzilla, it's like, the whole of San Francisco is destroyed now, because you effectively can destroy all of America in like quickest time ever. Like, really, maybe he is slow and it's always waddling or whatever. But you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just like, no, thank you. So, Mace, we'll slide on to our main topic for today. So
sounds great.
We're talking about Space Force, and I think it's a timely manner to talk about this. Again, it's been out for a week now on Netflix, and I'll go through the premise and what it's about. And we've got a lot of things to sort of discuss regarding this with comedies and etc. And there was a little bit of hype to this, but we won't be talking spoilers because it's only been out for a week, and Jack's 1 episode off or 2 episodes off finishing the show. But relative to a comedy and sort of stuff, it's not like there's a massive twist at the end of these.
No,
things.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Anyway, so in the end, Space Force, just reading again straight off, is a workplace comedy series that centers a group of people tasked with establishing the 6th branch of the United States Armed Forces, the United States Space Force. Steve Carell's character, Mark Naird, is the general in charge of the effort, and the series follows his collaboration to get boots on the moon per the orders of the president. Now, again, this sort of giving a bit of a background to this, it's created by Steve Carell and Greg Daniels. So Greg Daniels has been around for a while now, has worked on Simpsons, King of the Hill, massive player in The Office, and Parks and Rec. So he's got a real big comedy background. So developer, showrunner, producers with the whole Office series. So for 8 seasons of that, Parks and Rec also on there for the 6th season. So he's been around the comedy sphere for a very long time, and obviously confines in Steve Carell a lot, and they've come up with this idea. So straight up, where does this sit for you? Just your first sort of thoughts of the series, Jack? Because even when this sort of first came out and there was a teaser trailer, pretty it was only a month before it was released, so there wasn't obviously that much sort of chatter regarding it. So yeah, what's your first sort of thoughts on this show, and just more the premise of it and sort of the ideas behind it?
Well, like you said, I didn't know much about it until I didn't even see the trailer a month ago. I maybe saw it 2 weeks ago
Yeah,
maximum. So this is kind of a surprise coming onto Netflix, which is good.
yeah,
I like a good Netflix surprise. And it takes a very unique premise, I
yeah,
think. This guy's trying to, like you said, get a rocket to the moon. He has his own space team
yeah.
and then, mix of scientists on this huge secret, I'm not sure where it's set. Where is it set? Does it say? But it's
It's
almost like Nevada,
yeah, yeah,
secret camp kind of thing. And it's him trying to experiment with different with training
yeah,
and trying to get the craft up into space. And you don't see a lot of this kind of stuff in
no,
comedy usually, which is where I think it does fault a little bit. My personal, just going straight into it,
yeah,
I personally think it's a bit of drama, this, and a bit of comedy,
yeah,
but I think it might have worked better if it was completely all about the drama
yeah,
and the script was written more so around that, or it was cut maybe 10 minutes short from its 30-minute runtime
yeah,
to let the jokes breathe a little bit and
yeah,
not to pursue the jokes for an extended period of time where you're a
yeah,
bit over them, and just have a pure comedy show, something like The Office,
yeah,
and just have lots of different gags,
yeah,
but having both that heavy drama side mixed with
yeah.
half comedy, I don't think it meshes as well as it wants to.
Yeah, I think you sort of hit a nail on the head there. Like, I enjoyed my time watching this, but by no means did I sit back and go, I'm going to rewatch. Like, I'm not at this point in time. I'm not like I'm going to go rewatch Space Force next week. Like, it's not
Mm,
something I'd rather put Brooklyn Nine-Nine on again because I feel
yeah.
like there's a more guaranteed laughs per view. If like, and even old Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Friends or Seinfeld or whatever shows, I feel like you get more. You feel like there's a more laugh coming. If that makes a little bit of
Because
sense.
they are more comedy based and they have their
Yeah,
own identity, where I feel like Space Force is struggling to kind of find what it is because it is such a serious topic
yeah.
mixed with some humor. It's just trying to find the line of what it should be in season one anyway.
And I think the like you're saying, the hit or miss sort of aspect of it is, I think when this sort of idea, let's just play random timelines here. Let's say they decided to, this idea came about 2016, 2017 when Trump comes into power in the United
Mm,
States, and this is obviously a comedy on that, and that the president is, they never say it's Trump, but essentially it's Trump
yeah.
creating this space force, and I feel like in 2017 or 18 maybe, when they're creating this and coming up together with the idea, it's a funny premise, but I think
Mm,
the idea is funnier than the execution, because it's
yes.
like, if that makes idea, like, we're creating a space force, hilarious,
Mm.
but then Trump comes and he's sort of creating one anyway now, or sort of like they want to get to the moon
We're
again, so
taking
yeah.
credit for the new Tesla SpaceX
Yeah,
rocket.
so
Yeah.
like and I think that's where the idea sort of, and especially in today's world, it's probably not the best time to release something like this, or sort of the idea. It's sort of, it's playing on America and how dumb some parts of it can be,
Mm,
and I think that's where it just sort of, it just doesn't succeed yet in this 10 episode run. Now,
mm,
character wise, I think that's the hit or miss. Like, I would recommend everybody watching this from the start, and then we'll go into sort of some other things regarding it. I would
mm,
recommend people giving this a watch. Now, you spoke a
mm.
little bit about, like, obviously letting jokes breathe and etc. Again, we're just going to bounce around with this chat, but I think if this show's, pardon me, released on a normal network television and they've got 22 minutes, and you've got your cold open going into your credits, going into, say, 7 minutes ad break, 7 minutes ad break,
Yeah.
I feel like this works better. Whereas I know a lot of creators have said the Netflix streaming model can be quite difficult to write for and create for, because there's no stop, there's no ad break, there's no, if that
No,
makes sense.
no.
Like, you're just, this episode can be 40 minutes, then the next episode could be 30 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
there's no time that you have to be constrained by. And I know some people then say, writing for network TV and you got 22 minutes, it's like you have to condense. Sometimes you miss as much as like you want to put in. So
Yeah, yeah. And in this situation, I think this is a show that definitely would have benefited from if it was on TV, it did have ads and it was constrained to a 22 minute show because I do feel a lot drags. And, that part, I'm not giving spoilers here, but there's a part with, that chimp in the second episode, and he's kind of in space and he's trying to fix the ship.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I had a bit of a chuckle for maybe a second when I first saw that. I thought, okay, this is different. And then it went on for 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, this is going on too long. Are you pushing this out to fill the 30 minutes? It would have been good for 5 minutes, not even that. But this has gone on almost a whole episode. You're pushing the joke too far. It was funny. And they do this a few times across, the 8 episodes I've seen, where it started off all right. And then they're like, okay, let's bloat this out and make it, we think it's funny. So you hopefully will too. So let's make it go as long as possible. And I think, because of that, I think it doesn't explore as many jokes. But what do you think?
I think there's parts of that. And I think that also goes into the characters itself. So, and I think it's a difficult thing. It's like you're creating fresh characters and you're trying to get people to attach to them very quickly and feel for X, Y, Z, whoever it is, and giving them personalities that I just don't think 100% click. And then they're trying to put people in different roles and sort of connections. And I feel like a lot of stuff is just forced, too much.
Forced?
Yeah. But the thing that was too forced for me was Jimmy O Yang's character, Dr. Chan, and then the Space Force helicopter pilot, Angela Ali, having them to sort of become a love interest, I felt was like you have that first episode where they're sort of, for some reason, he's driving her or whatever because storylines. Not going too much into it because this is just general. But I felt like that was the problem with the show is they're putting characters together and then forcing them in like 100%. This is the direction they have to go. Whereas I think, and it's very difficult to compare because this is going to be my points a little bit later that we sort of talk about also, is I would have liked that sort of relationship to sort of breathe together and then it goes off and then maybe it comes back again. And I'm enjoying these comedies, especially putting 2 or 3 characters together that don't always go together to see what the dynamic's like. Because I think they kept pushing the same characters were butting heads or using them in a direction that I just don't think 100% was working. And I know sometimes, again, we'll talk about like test audiences and etc. We can talk about that now, but it's like, I think if people were watching this week on week, say released weekly, maybe you'd get to episode 10 or 8 and go, maybe we need to rework this script. We need to rework this episode because test audiences or people aren't enjoying these 2 characters being together. And I think that's nearly the thing is and again, these things would be tested through the roof 6 months ago when it's finished and re-edited and going, we don't like this and like this. But I just don't like some of the character interactions after a while. And I think you sort of nailed it on the head too. Like Steve Carell's, his assistant?
John Malkovich.
No, the other, like his guy who sits at the desk.
Oh, the guy with the glasses, the boldish. You're pointing about,
So like that was funny at the start, and okay, we're at a military base, and this guy, okay, it's funny, but then they just play him off as dumb and daft, and I understand where the sort of character is, but it's not like it's not comparing people, but it's just I feel like that guy just doesn't work because you're trying to make just like that guy would not be in that position. I'm not trying to say you have to have that person be in that sort of like you sort of know what I'm trying to say. Like I'm like he's not going to be that like that sort of person's not going to be in that role. You can make it funny. You can make it funny, but he just comes off as dumb. And I think they're trying to just make cheap laughs. And I think you were saying that earlier. It's even the first time. Oh yeah, he's in your office. He's in your office. He's in your office. It's like okay, but like that's funny the first time, but now it's just like you're just playing this character as dumb. Like I just didn't.
The character dynamics change for the sake of a joke. You know, what could be a serious character, is a bit silly for a certain few moments just to make a cracking joke and for a bit of a laugh. And like you said as well with the streaming too, most shows, if they're on TV today, would have that kind of period where they, stop for a while for the break or the holiday. They can look at the audience reaction and maybe rewrite the scripts based on the feedback and cater for the audience. But with a Netflix show that comes out in, 10 episode bulk, there's no changing it until season 2. And by then it might get cancelled. So it is a risk, for any show, I guess, to come to Netflix, but with just coming back to characters too, Steve Carell and John Malkovich. So they're pretty much the two
Together.
characters who hang out pretty much the whole show. I didn't think there was a whole lot of chemistry between them. It
Yeah.
kind of grew on me across the show. But even at the end of the day, I don't think they come off one another very well. They have two very different characters. He's
Yeah.
really, scientific and
Yeah.
smart, and Steve Carell is his character almost plays a bit like, I saw somewhere as well that he plays a bit like his character in Get Smart.
Yeah.
He comes across a bit more serious than his other roles, yet everything he does right, he ends up stuffing it up more
Yeah.
so in the next episode. So he's got some smartness and some
Yeah.
intellect to them, but he's not completely funny
No.
either. But in everything he does right, he does wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think like I enjoy their dynamic, but I think I more just enjoy John Malkovich because I think he plays his character very well, and I don't think their connection relative to it all is like, I don't know if John Malkovich is supposed to hate Steve Carell's character or love him. And I know that it's a work relationship, but I feel like one episode again, this is what it is, and so it makes me probably sound dumber, but it's like one episode they like each other, next episode they hate each other, next episode for the script, John Malkovich's character is going to throw him under the bus, and then at the last moment, because Steve Carell's character now has a heartwarming speech, he now is like, no, I'm going to save him now. Like, so it's like little things where I'm like, I would have nearly preferred that dynamic to sort of be set in stone a little bit more at the start. And
Yeah,
again,
I agreed.
John Malkovich's character is the smart guy, Steve Carell's is like the dumb leader who just flies by the seat of his pants and should take his advice from these people who are probably more qualified, but this guy's the general in the army, so he's the one who sort of makes the decisions. Now, I didn't mind either of those guys. Like, again, didn't mind them. But where did you find the classic social media character in Tony? What did you think of him?
Hold on, which one's Tony?
the social media guy, the Ben Schwartz character.
Oh, right. Yes, Ben
Yeah.
Schwartz. Coming off my actors I dislike, I actually do not like his, might be all right in some other shows, but I do not like Ben Schwartz in this. I do not find him funny.
No.
He's adds that very goofy sense of humor to the show that I personally don't find funny. I'm sure other people might, but he over exaggerates and he's just a bit goofy for me in this show. I don't think his jokes really land. That's just me. And I do find as well, they have all these other great comedic actors, sitting at the higher table with Steve Carell that we barely see. I think Jane Lynch or Patrick Warburton or some of them. And these are A-class actors. And you're paying them to sit there for a scene, barely making any jokes. They have better chemistry probably and can give better humor than Ben Schwartz and all of those combined. And they're a C-grade role of doing nothing. And I just feel like it's, underutilized.
Yeah, on that point there, those five who are around that round table, they're one-liners. I'm guessing a lot of that is, this is where we're wanting to go, and this is where we want to end. From all reports, it looks like they probably filmed all their stuff in one day. Probably got them all into a room,
probably it.
and this is our whole season. We're going to have a scene like this. This is this. But their chemistry, like you said, and their one-liners off each other, for me, is probably one of the best parts of the show. Even though some of it's dumb, but because it's so quippy and quick, I enjoy that. And like you said, you've got Jane Lynch, you've got some people in here who are ridiculously good actors, especially in the comedy sphere. And Ben Schwartz's character just feels like, what's the episode? You've seen the episode, obviously, where the First Lady's sending over the new uniforms. And this is probably how.
I have.
No, you would have.
And
this is how like the things are sometimes a little bit non-memorable, and it's like he's just pushing it to, we need it, and I'm like, dude, you're the social media manager, like just get back in your lane. And it just, the way sort of like you're saying before too, his character just doesn't hit for me. And then they get that stupid love interest with that other chick who comes for one of the episodes, and he starts hooking up with her, but he hated her. I'm like, I feel like they sort of, they probably cast Ben Schwartz and we're like, okay, this is what we're getting. And we give him this role. And it just doesn't fit for me. And then his dynamic with some of the other guys like Dr. Chan, just doesn't fit for me. Like, I don't like him really at all in this.
No.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen much of Ben Schwartz really before. I know he voices Sonic in the new movie. I don't really know him as an actor, and I can kind of see why. He might be all right in other things. But yeah, just too goofy for me. And a lot of the actors' plot lines don't really go anywhere.
Yeah,
Like, he has a daughter who's going, Steve Carell has a
yeah,
daughter in the show who's going out with this Russian guy.
yeah.
And that kind of just goes into
Oh, it
nothing.
stops. Yeah,
Yeah, it just stops. And it's like, okay, I'm not sure really what happened there. And
yeah,
I think the biggest fault of the show, I'm not sure if
yeah,
anything happens in episode 9 and 10, but Steve Carell's married to Lisa Kudrow, who
yeah,
plays Phoebe on Friends.
yeah,
And, it starts in episode 1 that,
yeah,
they're a married couple, everything's fine. And then a couple minutes later, you find out she's in prison.
yeah,
And it doesn't give you any background how she ended up there. I would have loved to see her in the series,
yeah,
but somehow I'm not sure she had a friend special to go
yeah.
to or something. But she's just in prison and there's no explanation. And I would have loved to actually see her more in the show as well. But no,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
nothing.
you play on, like, especially in the trailer, and Lisa Kudrow's there a lot in posters, trailer, and then, like you said,
Mm,
straight away she's in prison. Is it the classic, like, well, we've signed her up, but
mm,
we don't have the money all the time to keep her in the whole series, so we've got her
yeah,
because people are going to watch this because they see Lisa Kudrow and Steve
yeah,
Carell, and they see this cast, and then, like you said, they put Jane Lynch and other stuff in. So then people go, "Oh, okay, this is a 5-star cast," because
yeah,
really
yeah,
it is. And then she's not in it. So for everyone, they don't give any explanation, because I did read something from Greg Daniels and Steve Carell were like, "Oh, we're leaving it to the mind, and that's a thing that will." It's like, for God's
uh,
sake, it's not going to pay
mm,
off now. Like,
yeah,
um, I think, yeah. So that was the thing that was annoying, that dynamic, and just sort of how Steve Carell's then so blindly like, "Well, I'm in love with my wife, but she's in prison for 40 years." And then I
mm,
always just like, it's not that hard to understand. Okay, so for his daughter Erin, in the end, like, I understand obviously that'd be very difficult, and I've neither of us have this thing has happened to us. But if one of your, like, she's just so annoyed at her dad for getting back out there and dating,
mm.
I think you'd be up to that episode, I think, now, or give or take close to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
close. Yeah, I think I've seen bits of it. Yeah,
yeah,
evidence. Yeah,
yeah.
going through the show. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, oh no, I just hate you now. It's like, okay, that's a bit rough. Like,
Mm.
mum's in prison for 50 years.
Yeah.
So Steve Carell's just going to not do anything. And, like, so the little
Mm.
things, but I did enjoy some of the dynamics with her, in more of her, like, she doesn't have friends, etc. Like, that sort of thing, that she's struggling to adapt with it.
Yeah.
But then, like, oh, conveniently, because we need her to be in the series, she gets a job at the,
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know.
I'm like,
Just thought that was stupid.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, convenient. And then she starts chatting with that other
Yeah, the
secure,
officer. Mm.
and then he's
Yeah,
just
the
dumb. Like,
mm.
they just play him off as, like, so dumb. It's like,
Yeah.
and then also, like, I understand comedy. Like, sometimes you have to make your characters dumb, but you also have to make them competent to be in their roles, if that also
Yeah.
makes sense. So then, like, her two school guys, the chick, and then they're both the ones who, like, go to the moon or whatever it is. But then they're on the base and they're, like, dumb as F, like, so dumb characters just for laughs. I'm like, sometimes
Yeah.
you can actually just have a character that's, can play off as dumb, but is not an idiot, if that
Yeah.
also sort of makes sense.
And that kind
So,
of comes back to what we're saying before, they
yeah,
changed the character for a funny
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
And even with her daughter and these guys, if it was more of a drama, I would have
yeah,
maybe have even like just seen the relationship, seen a bit of chat,
yeah,
rather than him just playing stupid for a few jokes here and there. I would
yeah,
have liked to see maybe their relationship and how that would have turned out.
yeah. But
But
no,
no.
yeah, it's just for a joke.
Mm,
Like, it's just for a joke. So that's what I sort of, I did struggle with a little bit in there. So I guess the plot outlines, we won't go into it too much, because I said 100% give it a watch. But for me, it goes on as expected, as that sort of show is. They find a
yeah.
problem at the start of the episode, they got to solve the problem by the end of the episode, and they would say hilarity ensues in between. I wouldn't say hilarity; I'd say stuff happens. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think with that, such a large cast too, because it is a big cast. I
Oh,
feel
it's a
like they
huge
try
cast.
they
Yeah.
try and give each character shit to do each episode, and I
Mm.
kind of don't like. Imagine, like, we could easily not see Ben Schwartz for an episode, and I'd be fine with that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
Very fun.
but like the pilot chick, like, we don't need to see her every episode. And I think you
No.
would have, or you could just see them for small parts, but they don't need to have their 10 minutes of screen time. to sort of flesh it out. And I know we'll go into sort of comparing and sort of first seasons of other shows, etc. And most other shows have 20 episodes of, say, a comedic series in their first one. But where does this rank for you? And do you think people are being too harsh for it because it is season one? And if you compare it to a lot of other things, is it unfair for people to be dismissing this after 10 episodes?
Well, I think that comes down to this series' future, because there is some characters I like. I've kind of given it a bit of flack, but Nard's father, whatever Steve Carell's character is, Fred Willard, who's passed away quite recently. I think he's a hoot. Like, I loved him in American Wedding. He's just funny in everything he does. He's just a hoot.
He actually for his a bit of screen time, and rest in peace. He nailed it. He was great.
Yeah, he was great. But I think it all comes down to what season 2, whether it improves or not.
Yeah.
At this stage, I would not recommend. I know you've recommended it, but I would actually not recommend this show.
Yeah.
I don't find it funny. I chuckle. It just nothing really happens. The humor's not there and the drama's not there. I've said this a couple of times already, but there's nothing to keep me going really to even episode 9 and 10. I pushed myself almost to get to where I am now. If you're on your phone, sure, give it a try. If you like Steve Carell, I know a lot of people do. And after seeing, the morning show too, I know Steve Carell can actually do a very good, serious performance.
I was just about to say to you there is it time for Steve Carell just to stop doing comedy? Because I feel like as a dramatic actor, he's brilliant.
Dramatic, he is fantastic.
Yeah, he need to, because I feel like this is him just being like, okay, well, we can make a comedy. And I want to go also the other side too, is I reckon Netflix has probably come to them in some respect too and going, we need a comedy series, Steve and Greg, here's heaps of money to create this, maybe on the other side too. But sorry, continue. Sorry, I just thought
you were like you said, for sure. I mean, Netflix probably came to him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's so well known for The Office and his, just great comedies over the years.
Yeah.
He's at that age now where he can embark and do pretty much anything he wants.
Yeah.
And I think morning show, as he plays a dickhead on the morning show, there's no comedy there. He's an asshole on that show, and he plays it so well and so serious. He can, and he has played a few other serious roles before, but he can go more up that line now and not resort on kind of silly stuff like this anymore. If season 2 dramatically improved, and I found it more funny, the humor improved, the characters fleshed out a little more, and I saw it as something worth watching, I would say I'll definitely go back and watch season 1 because season 2's amazing. And I do agree, not many shows, season 1 shows are very strong.
Yeah.
Or actually, it might vary. Sometimes you do get a really strong season 1 and it digresses after that, or you have a weak season 1 that usually gets better. Like Friends season 1, as much as I love Friends, it is probably one of the weaker seasons. But even then, I found that a lot more funny than this. I can't really compare.
Yeah.
And same for How I Met Your Mother. As a show goes, I wouldn't say watch it until some promising season 2 content comes out. Different opinion, sure. I like Steve Carell, but this is not him in his true form. I think go back and watch The Office if you want a lot more laughs than what's on display on this show. And I think the cast don't get developed.
No.
And, Ben Schwartz and a few characters, I don't like them as actors, and I don't think they're funny, and I don't even like them playing a serious role.
Yeah.
So, and then all the actors that they have hired are only there for a few minutes, and they would actually make the show so much better. So it needs to find its footing. And I think it needed, like you said as well, go through a bit more testing because, this show is being panned critically pretty much everywhere.
And I think from my point, because I do agree with a lot of I nearly agree with the majority of what you say there, because I think I just have a lot of problems with some shows, and we can be very harsh on it, and I'll use a couple of analogies after, but I don't know if you're up to the point where they're trying to find people to go into space. And there's a couple of actors. There's the Indian one who, and this is me just generalizing because I don't have their names here because I can't find out exactly who they are because the IMDb doesn't let me click on who it is, or sorry, the Wikipedia. But there's a couple of the characters, and they've got them into the Space Force area to put them up into space, and they're all just dumb. Just so dumb.
I do know. Yeah.
She's plays someone in Master of None. One of the guys dates for like an episode or whatever, and I'm like, just this is like, for me, you don't have to have just dumb people to make jokes. You can have smart people because you're going to bloody space, and you can have dynamics of them. Like you're saying, this could be actually quite a good drama series. Like it could be an interesting drama take if it had small comedic through lines, or it had to be all just funny, like slapstick, and not really care about it. There's a couple of times I'm like, I just see these characters and I'm like, these guys are just so dumb, like so dumb. It's like, can we take my parrot to the moon? And then the parrot's on in the spaceship, and I'm like, for God's sake, like it's not funny. Like just
No.
play on. So, and I think that's when the problem of the show lacks is when they're sort of in that the mission, let's say mission control room, and they're talking to someone else on that big screen.
Mm.
It's like I'm not getting character development between the actual people that I'm supposed to care about. It's more
Yeah.
it's more there's someone else on this big screen and they're talking or fighting back, or Steve Carell's character's made to sound dumb, or
Mm.
John Malkovich. Like, so it's like we're supposed to laugh because someone else has degraded them through a webcam, and I'm like, okay, this is just kind of, this doesn't make me laugh.
No, and
The
there's
only
that huge courtroom drama as well. You know, in
oh
that second episode, and how he spent $1,000 to, export an orange into space,
yeah
and it's just like goes on for like 2-3 minutes, and
yeah
it's just like, is this funny? Is this meant to be funny? I'm really
yeah
confused.
yeah,
Is he meant to be really stupid for the sake of a joke? But it's not.
and
He's
then
fine.
yeah, and then he gets so heartfelt for them to like win that case, and you're like, okay, where's this guy all
Mm.
the time? Where is he all the time? So that's what I was like. That's what I was struggling with, like massively with this, because, and that's why I want to see a second season. That's why I want him to create a second season, because I want him to sit back in this writer's room and creators sort of space and go, this didn't work. This didn't work.
Mm.
Let's worry about our characters. Let's worry about our characters. Because I actually thought one of my favorite episodes of this was when he has to, at the start, I was like, oh, okay, here we go, classic. When he has to do the week in fake moon, like has to
Oh
go
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
three
Episode three or
people,
four. Yeah,
three or
yeah.
four. I actually really enjoyed that episode because it was confined to a space. Okay, there's
Mm.
slapstick comedy where he trips over the didgeridoo and all this sort of other stuff, and he's
You
screaming
had a
at
few
night.
new characters, didn't you, as well, that you don't see for the rest
But
of the yeah.
they weren't
Mm.
idiots. Those,
No.
okay, the sculptor guy was an artist, but the other two people were actual space people, and it was
Mm.
more you're using Steve Carell's character and the other people to play off them to make jokes, whereas
Mm.
everyone else later in the show, like, why aren't those two people the ones going to the moon at some point? Like that for me would be better, and then you play off the comedy aspects of it, of them, instead of just having these dumb characters be the laughs, because they're
Mm.
dumb, so we're supposed to laugh at them. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see a season 2, just because I was saying off air, and the analogy I'll use is in sports, this show is the rookie. It's the rookie season, but it's so you write off a lot of rookies. But if I'm
Mm.
putting together like a draft report of someone, and all of this chat's going straight over Jack's head, sports chat. But if I'm
Is it
getting
that
Steve,
obvious?
yeah, but if I'm getting Steve Carell and Greg Daniels to create a show for me, I'd say that's like a number 1, 2, or 3 draft pick. If I'm getting people to come together to create a show, that's why they're
Mm.
doing it. It's not these random guys randomly creating their first comedy. Netflix have probably gone to them, or they've come together, and Steve Carell and Greg Daniels, I think, deserve one more season. Now it's getting panned.
Yeah.
It is, because I haven't looked again. Rotten Tomatoes, everything 38% or whatever. Reviews aren't high. Not many people are even giving it 8s, 9s out of 10 in some metrics. And I'd probably only give it a 5 out of 10. So I'd probably give it a positive review, hoping that it's
Enough to recommend it.
yeah, enough to recommend. I'd just give it positive to say and that's the problem with Rotten Tomatoes being positive or negative, and that's just it. I'm not giving it an 8 out of 10. It's a 5, but it's positive for me because I want to see another season if they can take our criticisms or constructive criticisms and hopefully push it in a better direction. Now,
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing for this is, would have you preferred this if it was a weekly release, or because again, you've struggled to get through it. I watched 5 episodes, I think, straight away the first night it came out, and then I
Mm.
finished it the next day or two. But
Yeah.
I think I would have given up if it was a weekly release.
See, I think I'm not sure. It's really interesting because I might have continuously watched it more so with a bit more attention span than I did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, watching a couple of binging
Yeah.
it, and it's not a good show. You get to episode 3 and you're watching it for the sake of watching it, and you kind of maybe flicking on a bit of
Yeah.
Facebook or something
Yeah.
from time to time because you almost have too much of it. Where if it came out, I might have enjoyed the first episode, second episode, I know I'm only in for half an hour a week, and I might have some interest and maybe even watch the third.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I still think if you don't like a show after the first few episodes, you're not going to watch the rest.
No. I think spot on, because for me, I just I think it's an interesting subject matter, because have we really had a comedy like come on Netflix like this that's not a like comedy, like cartoon comedy, or like a sort of thing? Is this one of the first like real,
not as high profile as this anyway?
So probably should have done a bit more research on that, but no, I think it's for me, that's where it just I want this to succeed. And it's very hard to succeed after one season. And do I see this getting 3 or 4? Probably not. But if I'm Netflix, I think they have to take risks at some point too, to give a lot of things a second season. Because if this gets 2 seasons, 20 episodes, and it's shit, then can it. But I think if you can everything, and this is me always being a half glass full guy, not empty. But I'm like, if you can this now, what hope is there for anything that does? Like, how hard is it to nail it first go? Like, it's very hard to nail it first go. So that's why I'm just sort of like, can we give it 10 more episodes? And if it just fails, then I'm happy to sit back. You might not finish this. That's fine. But I'd want to see them go, you know what, guys, we're giving it 10 more. We're giving Steve Carell and stuff a chance. And we're gonna try. And if it doesn't work, I'm fine. I'm cool. But I just feel like they need to give it a little bit more time to flesh it out.
Yeah. I mean, everything deserves a second chance, doesn't it? It depends on the budget of the show. If it was low budget, I'm sure they would happily go ahead. But with all these actors and some of the special, there's a few special effects would definitely up the budget. It might be a bit too expensive, or maybe not worth renewing for season 2. I hope it does, in the same way of what I said before, if it does improve. But I think the Trump aspect too, in the first episode, tweet Trump's, he wants boobs on the moon. And he said, I think he meant boots on the moon. Just little jokes like that. Trump could easily write that. He could do stupider things than write boobs on the moon. Right, you're saying he's doing in America right now. If they get over the fact that the president is doing stupider things than this, and get over the fact that, just for a few laughs, it might go right, because they've mentioned POTUS so many times, and it's his birthday, so they're trying to find some fireworks or something to do for that. And it's just like, you're aiming for a joke. There's a joke somewhere there about him, but he is the joke, and you can't really talk about that on TV. So you could just leave it altogether, I think.
And I was just even having a look at some other things, and I think you sort of said it a bit before, like the hardest thing is, can you class this as a comedy? Because it's not overly funny. So like, it's obviously a comedy, but I just don't think it just hasn't nailed it. And again, maybe I'm just being too nice and saying, let's give it another shot. But that's what I'm just struggling with a little bit, because I'm not a massive Office fan also. Like, I'm not a huge fan. But does that show work? Like, I've seen a lot of it, but I haven't watched, gone episode 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, I haven't gone, like, I've just seen certain things. If it's on, I'll put it on. But I don't know whether, again, that works too, because this is supposed to be, and I think they use, the word, a workplace. It's a workplace comedy series where I feel like no one's working next to each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're all in their own.
They're all in their own. It's like set pieces.
Yeah, it's a huge facility. Yeah, set pieces. They're little scenes. Yeah.
So, and that's why I think sometimes, like, say, Friends works. It's the 2 apartments and a coffee shop, plus then maybe a street or whatever a shop is per episode. Seinfeld is cafe, Jerry's apartment, and wherever the character really then takes them. Whereas this here is like, that's Ned's office, but no one else goes in there except him. Like, sort of like really, and maybe John Malkovich's character.
Malkovich surprises him,
Yeah, or everyone's in this massive room. And I don't know, it's just like little things for me. And like, they waste a whole episode on who's the spy. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
and then they have John Malkovich singing for another 10 minutes, which was funny for 10 seconds, but it goes for 10 minutes. And it's like,
And that's why I think if that's a network show, they're doing that sing for 30 seconds and then stopping it. But then you try and play on the fact that it's like, well, that's heartfelt. Like now we feel sorry for it. Like I'm like, where are we going? What's the point of this? Like that's what I struggled with a little bit because yeah, I'm just looking again even at the poster now and the people on it, and I go, this it probably should succeed, and but then they're just playing the racial card with Chan's character all the time, and I'm like, oh god, like
Yeah.
are we still at that? Are we still there? Because the first couple of times it's funny, and then he's like, really guys, come on, but I don't know, yeah. I think if it's a workplace comedy, it should have been everyone should have been closer together. And I feel like that's sort of maybe where The Office or Friends and stuff work is it's the dynamics of characters, and we'll move on in a sec anyway. But it's like you're putting that's why I think Seinfeld really works. And they always say what they do in Seinfeld is there's 3 stories per episode. 2 of the characters are by themselves doing their own
Mm.
thing. 2 characters are put together. So there's 3 storylines and they come together. So you're always putting a dynamic that shouldn't be. Because I feel like with this, and we said it earlier, is it's always Ned and John Malkovich, Steve Carell and Malkovich together. Whereas I would have liked some episodes where it's like, okay, it's Carell and this guy and this guy and that guy or that girl. Like put them all in different sort of things to come to this singular point. And I don't,
I'm with you.
yeah, and I don't know whether because it is a workplace comedy and they're all stuck in their spot in this massive base, they can't play around as much more because they're just sort of stuck in this sort of space. And that's probably when there's too many characters. And yeah, that's just my my thought at this point. So, any final words on this, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. So final words. I think I'll go with what my last statement was. That for me, give it a miss. You know, if you like Steve Carell, you might be able to persist through it. But there's very limited humor here. I've got a chuckle from each episode. Lots of lost potential from actors. And, you know, hopefully season 2 can improve. But otherwise, I see this show being cancelled in the near future. Yeah, probably give it a miss.
Yeah. Oh, me always half glass full. I'd say if you're bored in quarantine or isolation at the moment and you like Steve Carell, give it a watch for 5 and see how you feel. And maybe, as you said before, watch an episode, come back to it, don't binge it, and see what your thoughts are. Because I hope they give it a second chance because these guys are obviously more genius than we are, really, in the comedy sphere. So I hope they give it a second chance. But if they don't, I completely understand why. So I think obviously the most important thing is if you've watched Space Force, can you please tell us? So either send us an email or comment and send us a DM on our socials, and we'll get back to you with it. And we'd like to hear your points on the show because, again, we haven't really had a chance, as we spoke at the start of the show, to talk about something that's timely, relative, that's just been released. So this is our first sort of one, and I think it's quite enjoyable to look back at it because I like the dynamic that we both aren't 100% on it. So, and we are sort of differing. So it's good to have that there. So again, give Space Force a watch, but if you don't want to, you could listen to one of our other or you could listen to one of our other podcasts. Just shameless plug there. But no, so we'll move on to show and tell. Jack, so what else have you been watching this week?
So in the recommendations front, I've been mostly watching this when I've had a spare moment. But I think I watched episode 3 of Anna Kendrick's new show.
Yeah.
What's that called again, Will?
Love Life.
Love Life. Thank you. I was going to say Love Story. But yeah, I think, like I said the other week with you and Connor, first episode was all right. You know, it starts off, shows a bit of, her dating this nice bloke and, things separate them across, a few months. And second episode, she goes out with another guy. And this episode, without saying too much about it, because I will probably recommend this show. She is back to single life.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. There's things I can relate to, being at a party, potentially seeing your ex and feeling, that jealousy, to see them with a new partner. I don't know. I can see people watching this, it's a good couple show too, but like single guys. Oh shit, I'm not single, but you can watch. You can. It's good. It's good either way. It's good either way. So I think, I love Anna Kendrick. I think she's a good actor. She's good. She can play funny and awkward, which is really needed for this show. When it's a story about her trying to flirt with guys, and all that. And at this stage, there's only 3 episodes though. So coming from Space Force, where I've binged, 8 episodes, it's kind of nice just to have a refreshing week between it all,
Yeah.
because I could have fallen for binge-itis.
Yeah.
And could have gotten a bit stale, I think. But at the same time, it's kept fresh, and it is a better show than Space Force, though.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy, though, because I can't really compare.
No, I've also binged all 3 episodes in my single life to get around, because I have a massive soft spot for Anna Kendrick, like a massive soft spot for her. Like, I think she's great, and she plays that. She's hot as fuck, but she plays that quirky also character too. And I didn't mind this. Now I'm sort of, in the end, we're both sort of going opposites of today's episodes shows we're talking about, because I think I needed this to be a whole binge. I needed to watch all 8 episodes. I need to get this done, because I don't know if I'll come back to watch a single episode. What I'm going to have to do is wait for 4 episodes to come out, because obviously I'm not going to care what happens. Like, if someone spoils it for me, I'm not going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But the only thing I hate with some of these shows too is a little bit, I was talking to my sister about it, is the narration sort of part of it. Like, and she doesn't know what will happen next and stuff. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, not more narration.
It's a
like,
bit cringy, isn't it? The
yeah,
narration in this. Yeah.
Just give me the story. Give me Anna Kendrick. Give me Anna Kendrick sleeping around in New York City, because don't we all wish we could do that? And go from there, because there's flaws in this and the story decisions that they make. And I think more, if I have to just get a random episode here and there, yeah, I don't know. I like the first episode. Second episode was sort of classic. She's dating the older man that used to be her boss, and she's just obviously going to get drunk at fucking situations. And I'm like, oh God, the problem is, for me, it's so cliche. And I know that's
life cliche.
Yes, it is cliche, Jack. But sometimes I'm like, why does she need to do this here? Like, what I want to see from a series like this a little bit is not what always happens. Like, don't give me, like, okay, it has to be because it's TV. Like the 3rd episode when the guy goes to her work. And you're just like, oh, for God's sake, really? Like, it's all of New York City. I understand that this guy's like loves her or whatever, and just thought he'd come and have a look. But it's like, what are the chances? Seriously? Yeah. Like, and then even the first episode, like I actually enjoyed the first episode, and that character was good. What's the Asian guy's name? I can't even remember.
I don't know, but he was a good lad.
Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. But then, like, conveniently, they meet with him. They catch up. Oh, no, I liked it. I did. It's good. If you want that sort of sappy, sort of rom-com style drama sort of thing, there's comedic elements, there's drama elements. I don't know if I really enjoyed the housemates that she's with. And also, I said this point to you, and I also texted my sister about it, and I was like, can we get away from people in New York City who have small jobs and not making that much money, having these big ass mother effer apartments? Because her bedroom
was pretty big.
Her bedroom is massive. I understand it's TV, but they give us an idea, really an idea. This is what New York City's like, and that's not what New York City's like. You don't have.
I mean, I don't know the New York property market. I guess Friends was set in Greenwich, and I know the property market's really expensive there, so that's unrealistic. But I don't know where exactly is Anna Kendrick in the show.
Well, so no,
where in New York is she?
From Friends' thing was they get away with saying it because of rental control. I think it is. So they're saying that it's like. I think it's Monica. Again, someone please tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Monica's grandma had that apartment.
Oh, yes.
Girls are in. So they say she still lives there because rental control that's the same price or relative. You keep renting it. I think that's how it works. Again, we don't have that sort of similar stuff here. But to stop the skyrocketing of prices, if you keep renting the same thing, the price is apparently supposed to stay. Or very relative to like inflation, etc. So that's why it's cheap.
Check out our real estate podcast next week.
Talking about New York City and sort of stuff like that. But no, I think so. That's why. But I hate the fact is I'm then looking at. I'm looking at it. I'm like, for God's sake, and that's why I sort of like Seinfeld sometimes, because Jerry's apartment's like kind of small, and Jerry's rich. And it's like a kind of small apartment, whereas these guys have got this big ass apartment. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. But no, I didn't. I'd recommend someone watching this if you want to spend your Sunday night, like I did, just sitting there having a beer and eating chips and watching Anna Kendrick.
Thinking what could be.
What could be? Just what could be. No,
Yeah, no, nice.
anything else you checked out?
Not at this range.
Yeah,
No, not at this range. Not at this stage.
yeah,
No, no. It's just been mostly Space Force.
yeah, yeah. Space Force. For me too. Watch that. There's not much else again at the moment. I did check again. I was like, you know what, we haven't spoken about for a while now, Jack.
What?
I saw on Netflix they were like, and you must watch Extraction. I was like, oh god, yeah, maybe I have to give Extraction another watch. We haven't had Extraction talk for a while, I thought. So no, funnily enough, there's not much else going on.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no news on that front. Is
No,
there?
no, not at
Extraction
all.
wise? No, no.
No, that's sort of dropped off a little bit now. But in the end, so what's our next pod about, Mace, this weekend?
So our next pod will be coming out soon. So that will be on E3.
Yeah.
And just the controversy kind of, well, not necessarily controversy, but is E3 still relevant?
And conventions,
coming
are they
into this
still
day and
relevant?
age. And conventions in general, yeah.
So yeah, we'll put up a couple of bits of social media regarding that. So if you have any comments, please send a message on those, and we'll talk about them on the next episode that we release. We record in the coming days. But as always, Mason, it's just been a delight to talk to you.
Another delight. Yeah, delight to talk to you, Cutters. But otherwise, we'll see you next week, and stay safe.